Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do the mid-year freak out tag. I am freaking out because I cannot believe it is the middle of the year. I know pretty much all of you are going to say that. So yes, 2023 is going by so fast. It's been a wonderful, stressful, lovely, terrible year so far. Can everybody say that? I think that's how most years are. It's just so much good, so much not good, and then you just keep having joy in the year. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Best book of 2023. And so let me put a disclaimer. I'm going to say best books that I have read in 2023, not books that come out in 2023. And that is going to be Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I bet he read this with my friend Courtney from Courtney Reads, and it was a good time. And I really think I'm going to be a Dostoevsky fan. I've yet to read another one yet, but I'm going to. All right, so next, best sequel of 2023. Now, it's a reread. I'm cheating, but I shared this with my boys. I'd already shared it with my daughter, and this is Embers End. This is the last book in the Green Ember series by S.D. Smith. This series is full of so much hope, so much longing, so much beauty, so much truth, and little anthropomorphic bunnies and other animals. I just absolutely loved this series, and the ending was amazing. If you haven't read S.D. Smith, what are you waiting for? Do it. All right, next. New releases you want to read. I don't really have any that are already out. I had only been anticipating like a few for this year in general. Two I've already read. One was Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, because I usually read hers. And then another one was Homecoming by Kate Morton, which was brilliant. I loved that one. But that was kind of it for the beginning, the first half of the year. The next prompt we'll go into, I have a better answer for that though. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and that is Silverborn, which is the fourth book in the Nevermore series. We follow Morgan Crow, who's got some interesting abilities. I love the quirky, different characters, the found family feel, and just it checks off all my middle grade fantasy boxes. Love it. All right, let's go for the next prompt. Biggest disappointment. Okay, this would be The Enchanted April by Elizabeth Von Arnim. And I Betty read this with Beautiful Minutia, and she kind of felt the same way, but the disappointment was definitely not reading with Tiffany. I really enjoyed Betty reading this with her. It's such great conversations. I wanted it to be Grown Up Secret Garden, and that's not what this book is at all. There are some beautiful, scenic descriptions and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed that part. I just didn't particularly enjoy the characters that much. There are some fun things that happen in the book, but it just wasn't what my heart wanted it to be, which was Grown Up Secret Garden. It's not that. There's some misogyny that isn't handled as if it really is misogyny. It's just that's just the way men and women are, I don't like that. So next, biggest surprise. I have a couple of answers for this, and the first one would be, I knew I was going to like it because Dia picked it out for me. I let her pick out some books for June, and that's Gift of the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And in my wrap up of this book, I said, try not to look up too much about the author unless you already know a lot about her. I think it will affect you better if you don't know too much about the author. But this is just such a beautiful take of women and their lives and their experiences, and it relates it back to the sea. I like nonfiction, but it's not always my favorite. Books that often will stick to me a lot of times will be fiction books. And I think this book will never, ever leave me. I think I will reread it many times. The other one that was a big surprise in a good way was East of Eden. I thought, oh my goodness, I might have to DNF this one. It was very dark. This is by John Steinbeck, by the way. It was very, check the trigger warnings, but it was so true to life and such good writing. And the other surprise about it is I'm not always the biggest fan of very straightforward writing. Sometimes I like a little bit more beatific dialogue. And I loved his writing style. I have read John Steinbeck before. I've read Of Mice and Men. I tried when I was much, much younger and less emotionally mature to read Grapes of Wrath because I'm from Oklahoma. I've lived in California. I thought it would be good for me to do it. And I'm going to definitely try to do that, read that book this year after finishing East of Eden. All right. So favorite new author. There are some authors. I'm just going to list them off that I've read one of theirs this year, and I want to read more because I think that they are great. So instead of just giving you a favorite new author, Anne McCaffrey, she wrote a beautiful fantasy that I absolutely loved called Dragon Song. That was another Dia recommendation. Of course, Dostoevsky. I want to read more by him. Margaret Rogerson, I read her book, A Sorcery of Thorns, and I just thought she was a beautiful fantasy writer. And then Rebecca Ross also is another beautiful fantasy author that I just tried one book of hers this year, and I definitely want to read more by these authors. I really enjoyed them. One last one, Laura Wood. This was a recommendation from Dia as well, and it was a historical fiction that I read of hers, and it was beautifully written. And so I want to try more of Laura Wood's as well. I don't know if they're favorite new authors, but they're authors that I just loved and I want more of. So the next one, newest fictional crush. Okay, I'm going to change this prompt, because I don't really have one. I changed it to couple that I ship. How about that? So we're going to do Elizabeth and Nathaniel from Sorcery of Thorns that I just mentioned. I read by Margaret Rogerson. I loved that couple and I wanted them together. So there we have that. I can change things if I want to, right? No offense to the original person that did this, because I'm sure that most people will have a fictional crush. I just didn't have one. Newest favorite character, and that's going to be Minali from Dragon Song. I just love her. So she is a young lady who comes from an awful parents, very weird village, and she has music in her heart. She's very gifted, and she finds some fire lizards to be friends with, and I just love her just can-do spirit, even though she has been basically abused at home. And next, book that made you cry. Counting by Sevens definitely brought some tears to my eyes. This is a book by Holly Goldberg Sloan. It's about a very gifted young lady. She is going through a really terribly hard time. Horrible thing has happened to her, and she develops friendships and family relationships and inspires people to be better than who they were, and people just come together because of her work to make her life better, and she makes everyone who touches her life better. So I really loved it. I appreciated it. Great middle grade. All right. Book that made you happy. Okay, so I am currently literally 5 minutes from finishing this biography of George Mueller by Jeff and Janet Binge. And I knew a lot about George Mueller's life. He had a lot of faith and ran orphanages. And there were times where the kids would have literally nothing for breakfast, and he would pray. And things would happen to fulfill breakfast that morning for all those children. And it was just so hopeful and happy, to read about that. But also, it was so amazing to learn that he was a despicable, awful thief and liar. And then he became someone who followed Christ, and then went from that to someone who, over the course of his life, took care of 10,000 orphans. Amazing. Made me so happy to read. All right, next, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. This is the last book in the Last Hours series, and I just thought this cover was gorgeous. I bought this with Christmas money. I typically don't buy books anymore. I just can't afford to unless they are thrifted. And so this was a brand new book that I purchased, and it made me smile. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Oh my gosh. One of my goals this year was to finish series, and I'm doing well. I'm making dents, but there's so many series I need to finish, so I'm not even going to go into all of those. There's Betty Reads that I have planned For instance, I know that in October, like Beautiful Minutia and Novel Idea and I are going to do Nicholas Nickleby, and that'll be a reread for me, but it's been 20 something years since I read it, so I've forgotten a lot, so it'll in some ways be like reading it for the first time. I have just a great desire to read more Daphne du Maurier. I want to read My Cousin Rachel. I did a great read of Jamaica Inn with Chrissy from Chrissy's Purple Library, so maybe I can convince her to join me on that. I know Courtney Reeves and I have talked about doing some more buddy reads. We might do The Scarlet Pimpernel, and we might do, which would be a reread for both of us, and then I think we might do some more Dostoevsky together, which would probably not be a reread for her, but would be a first time for me. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. I'm going to tag a few people to see if they want to do the mid-year freak out tag. Let's see who has not done it yet. I'll be right back. I'm going to see if I can investigate a little bit. All right, so I have a list of people to tag. I am filming this almost a week in advance, so hopefully you guys still haven't done it yet. If you have already done it, just ignore me. I'm going to tag Bethany from Bethany Brings Books. I'm going to tag Jenny Chasteen. I'm going to tag Grape Jelly Library. I'm going to tag Bandana Book Mom. And I'm going to tag Courtney Reads. All right, if you guys want to do it, do it. If not, no worries. Read a lot. Bye-bye.